So this is where digital literacy comes into play. Whenever you're using something, even fiber, you need to know how that software works and pay attention to settings and small print and all of those things, because it can have dire implications. What I found is a lot of people have apparently been using Fiverr for estimating, because there's Xactimate estimators on Fiverr. When they left a review for those estimators, they didn't know that there's a little box that you actually have to uncheck, digital literacy here, that gives you the option to not include a picture of the deliverable for the entire internet to see when you leave your review. So I've got unredacted reviews of Xactimate estimates out there that I saw. There's a ServPro up the street from my office. I see their EIN, I see their client's name, I see their claim number, I see all of their PII, which is personally identifiable information, all of it, just out on the internet.
From humble beginnings, Insurance Claim HQ has grown to one of the largest property casualty firms in the country. We didn't do it alone, and you shouldn't either. Every week, we're talking to claims professionals and top experts from all over, all to help you grow your business and make you stronger. Let's level up together. I'm Galen Hair. Welcome to the Level Up Claims Podcast. Our personal and professional lives are tethered to the digital realm. Whether it's a social media app we use throughout the day or a cloud-based CRM, it's damn near impossible to not be, which means we're vulnerable to a growing number of different data security threats. How can you best protect yourself, your data, and your clients' information? Our guest today is well-versed in this space and is here to provide some clarity. So let's welcome back Sarah Mary Parker. Sarah Mary Parker, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
So we had a great discussion. We talked a little bit of AI, a little bit of digital literacy, a little bit of privacy, ethical concerns, scratched the surface on a number of things. But when we were kind of talking about episodes we wanted to do and working with you to figure out what the topics were, the one that jumped out as like the must do, even if it's not the sexiest to some people, is cybersecurity. I mean,
Yes.
Before we jump into this with you, I will tell you at our firm, we've become obsessed with cybersecurity.
Oh, I know you have. You're one of the only ones talking about it.
Beyond just being like frustrated that my staff clicked on that phishing email yet again. And we went into like, I don't understand like how many times, but like, it's such a serious issue. It costs so much money. And I know you have stats and stuff, but it costs Americans so much money and American businesses so much money.
Yeah.
And we're asleep at the wheel sometimes, even as an industry. So So first of all, just thank you, because you're one of the only people in the industry that's been like, I could talk about cybersecurity. And I'm like, what? You want to do that? Everyone else is like,
I'd love to, yeah.
Can we do something else?
I promise I'll make it
so-
exciting, accessible, and understandable, guys. It's not going to be, like the movies where you have the hackers and they're like, I'm in. It's not like that. It's very practical, I promise.
Where they change your website to like a Russian flag and, there's a Bitcoin account.
Right.
Which does that was my first experience with
happen.
cybersecurity.
It can happen, though.
Yeah, that was my first experience with cybersecurity. Is we had a law partner at my old firm who had a separate like entity set up for the work he did. And some hackers like changed it. I think it was a Ukrainian flag at the time. Obviously had nothing to do with the conflict.
Yeah.
But they put a Ukrainian flag and some terrible music playing, and there was like a Bitcoin wallet like address on it. And if it was basically like you have to deposit X amount of money if you want your website back. And he did it because the website generated so much traffic that he was hemorrhaging money.
Does he know
just by
how?
allowing this
Did
to
they get his
happen.
DNS records, or what happened there?
I think so. He hadn't locked his
Oh.
his domain, and I mean there were a bunch of things he changed after the fact, which thank God encouraged us to change a bunch of things after the fact. But
Yeah.
those
You can
old
learn
things
from
are
other
real.
people's mistakes. If there's any theme to this episode, is please learn from other people's mistakes, because all the mistakes have been made and there are also solutions.
So like we're in an industry where some people don't even like filling out a paper contract, right? So like what should be the approach, knowing I think we've got all types in our industry, right? We've got the ones that only do like electronic signatures using, like the various vendors that claim to have bank level encryption, et cetera, et cetera. And then we've got people that are like, okay, so I've got this carbon paper triplicate and, but whatever. I'll just shake your hand because I trust you. So what should be like the starting approach for cybersecurity? Like if I'm sitting there at a PA firm right now or a law firm,
Hmm.
and I'm like, what is cybersecurity? Like, what would you tell me?
Cybersecurity, very simply, at least my understanding and my, how I feel about it, is it's being aware of your digital exposure and managing that risk. So digital exposure is kind of like there's something called a digital footprint. So every time you do something on a device, any device, you leave a footprint, and footprints can be tracked. So that is something to think about. Most of us, when we sign up we just want to go try out a software quick, right? Like, oh, let's see if this works for my firm. You don't even think about it, but you go in and you create it. Give them your email address, your name, give them a lot of information. And that creates something called a digital footprint. We talked a little bit on the last episode about privacy policies. So that's something to think about as well, is they can, also use that data later and sell it. There's actually federal laws about that, which is important to think about within cybersecurity, and even marketing. But it's being aware of what apps are you currently signed up for. Which ones have you signed up for the free trial and forgot about? You know, um, what devices do you have? Do you have an old iPhone laying around that you never use but still has all your data on it? That kind of thing. And even if you look at our work, sometimes devices are subpoenaed in court cases, and you got to give up your phone. What data's on that phone? It's just really things to think about how you're using devices and how you're using software. So software and hardware. So being aware of that and log it. Say, you know, here's the accounts that we have. Don't put your password on there, but here's the accounts that we have. This is who has access to it. That's the other thing. So first, being aware of your digital footprint and exposure on devices and software. Then it's who has access to it. So, for example, if you have a law firm and you have a paralegal and two attorneys and an office assistant, log who has access to different systems. Not everyone needs to have access to your accounting system. If you're using a public adjusted CRM, whether it's one you've built yourself or one that's out of the box, make sure that you're using access permissions. It's there's actually a cybersecurity principle called least privilege. And that means give someone the least amount of data that they're supposed to have access to. Just give them the data they need to do their job. They don't need any more than that. So that's something you can think about. So very simply, know what you're using, know who has access to it, and that's a great place to start.
And if you're sitting at home listening to this or in the car, wherever, and you're saying, yeah, but I trust my people, so I'm going to give them access to everything. There's a response to that, which is you can trust your people, and you should, because frankly, you shouldn't employ them if you don't trust them.
Yes.
But people are unpredictable, and people are fallible. And by the way, you don't control those people's home life. They have full access to everything, and they save a password on their laptop and they take it home. You don't know who else is at their house, right?
Yes.
And you don't know who else gets access to their stuff. So, because I get this all the time, and then I get a call once a year, it's not a lot, from some public adjuster who's like, one of my employees cleaned me out, took everything I had, started their own competing firm, and took all my client data. And I'm like, well, why did they have all of it?
Why did they have all of it? That's a good question. So even from a business standpoint, it's not so much just some random bad guy out in the ether that could get your data. It's also thinking about just business management principles. Using that cybersecurity least privilege, concept is really helpful. And just to protect IP for your business. It can be that's another reason that you would want to do that. And basically too, and if you also think about if something is connected to the internet, it is hackable. So it's not, yes, it is also about trusting your people, but even if you trust your people, there's another thing in cybersecurity is that the biggest risk that you cannot control is human beings. We make mistakes. We, There's people that will like save their spreadsheets and things on Excel spreadsheets. They'll save their logins, and if their computer gets compromised or their router gets hacked, which is so common. Did you know you're supposed to update your firmware on your router frequently? Most people don't. So if you're not doing that, a lot of people's routers are compromised. It's actually incredibly common. Millions of routers are compromised.
And drill down on that. That means every device connected to that router could be accessed in theory.
Yes. And there's something sinister right now in cybersecurity. Everyone thinks about hacking as like brute force hacking, right? Like they're in there and they're there's this one person somewhere on the other side of the world, usually in our minds, that is just trying to get our password and log in and take our stuff. That's not really how it works. Just like we love leveraging technology to do less work, so do criminals. So criminals are using AI now. They're using automation. They're using bots to do this hacking for them. So they find the most common, cybersecurity issues, and that's how they do it. And one of those things is called info stealers. And this is why you brought up, like, don't click on that phishing email. Don't click on that random email, That's because all you have to do is visit the link to be compromised. You don't have to put in any information. It literally sends a script. And info stealers are so pervasive right now. And what they do is they install viruses and malware that can't be detected by most malware detectors, right? And what it does is it takes screenshots of what you're doing. So it gets your passwords, it downloads, if you're using Google Chrome, which is one of the most leaky browsers out there for security, using Google Chrome, it'll snap up all of your passwords you've saved in there. So one easy thing to do to not be hacked and practice cybersecurity is never save your passwords in a browser or anything like that. But because they take screenshots, you can actually there's cybersecurity researchers that actually go to the dark web and post stuff, and I've a little wild, but I have actually seen the desktop picture of a Prudential C-level executive because they got hit by an info stealer because their kid was playing Minecraft and downloaded one of them by accident on their device. So like you said, you don't know who's using those devices when they get home. And the information was redacted, just so anyone knows. I didn't see any confidential Prudential information. The cybersecurity researcher redacted it. So.
No, you would never. But, I guess the point is that seems so innocent. Let your kid play Minecraft so they'll leave you alone for 10 minutes while you take a phone call.
And they're on Discord and they're just chatting with some friendly person who says, hey, I have this mod for Roblox. Do you want to download it? Boom, info stealer.
Which, if you don't know what Discord is, your kid does. So, so just be aware. If you don't know what it is, your child does. So it's not, the threat is not eliminated just because you don't know what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that kind of comes back to digital literacy as well. It's pretty challenging to even start looking at digital literacy, but basically what it is just being aware of how the technology that you're using, whether it's hardware or software, works, and what the settings are, stuff like that. So if you didn't even know prior to this podcast that CRMs have, different user settings for access amounts, great place you can start.
Yeah. And your CRM vendor should have already existing knowledge-based articles, walkthroughs, videos on this. And if they don't, call them up, make them walk you through it. And if they still won't, change CRMs because they suck. Like, if they won't tell you how to limit access, then and I hate to say that because who knows, I might have just angered a CRM, but every reputable CRM out there has literature already existing on how to limit access. They just do.
Yeah.
Because they know it's important.
Absolutely. And it's mainly managing risk, right? Just like in insurance, you can't control the world. And you can't control everyone else. And, I've been coding since I was 16 years old. I've been in the tech world and I'm in developer forums. This is going to freak people out. Most developers really don't think about cybersecurity much. I'm not saying all of them, but for a lot of them, it is an afterthought. And even with, Fortune 500 companies. It's kind of like, since this audience is in insurance, they'll understand this, but the claims department is a cost department. It's taking money out of the company, whereas, that's why they put a lot of the resources into the sales side, because it's bringing money into the company, whereas the claims department is siphoning money out of the company. So that's where you
Mm-hmm.
see cuts first in technology and efficiency is the claims department. Same thing with cybersecurity, is even the software you're using with the giant companies, the first thing that they're cutting is cybersecurity and IT, because it's not generating money. So it's interesting.
It is, and it's scary.
Hmm.
But it's very real. Let's kind of talk, we're already there staying in cybersecurity. Let's talk about
Hmm.
vendors and stuff, because it strikes me that another area where you could have cybersecurity risk is a lot of public adjusters and law firms for sure these days. They hire other people to assist them with their jobs. I know we do all the time.
Yeah.
We hire existing
Hmm.
public adjusters, estimators to go out to our client's property. We give them access to our client's sensitive data.
Hmm.
We get them to go out there and meet with them. They document things at their homes. Then we have discussions with them, right? What kind of things should firms like mine, public adjusting firms, that use these vendors, what kind of things should they be doing to vet cybersecurity risks, and what kind of things should they require of their vendors?
Yeah, so we can make it very practical. So, like I said, cybersecurity is not like in the movies where you're, coding furiously and you're wearing cool outfits that have like, RGB lights and something like that. Um, Basically, have and so I'll just give you some more background for me. I have a lot of experience because of growing up in my mother's PR firm with a lot of corporate things that a lot of small business owners don't get educated on. And one of those things is vendor management requirements. So um, you should, at a minimum, have a checklist for your vendor that they sign off on, if not an agreement. A lot of people still do handshake agreements. I'm not here to judge anyone on that, but at least have some kind of checklist or some kind of like onboarding where you talk about how you're going to handle the data, what type of data you'll be giving them, and what your expectations are around that data, how long they're allowed to hang on to it. Um, Again, regulations come into play here. Public insurance adjusters in different states have a certain number of years that they're supposed to actually retain claim data. So just, knowing that information of what data you're giving them, how long they're allowed to store it. Obviously, if regulations come into play for some people, and then just getting into handling it properly. Unfortunately, this is really scary, and it's something that I've posted online. I didn't want to post it at first because it implicated people I knew, um, but I didn't mention them. I just made this more broad. But I did find I've been on a cybersecurity journey and getting back into tech the last 6 years or so, and I did find a data breach that was from our industry, and it involves both. It involves insurance carriers, it involves law firms, public insurance adjusting firms, contractors, and then vendors like IA firms of carriers, and it was from Fiverr. So this is where digital literacy comes into play. Whenever you're using something, even Fiverr, you need to know how that software works and pay attention to settings and small print and all of those things, because it can have dire implications. So um, basically what I found is a lot of people have apparently been using Fiverr for estimating, because there's Xactimate
Mm.
estimators on Fiverr. And I'm not here to shame anyone for that, only to educate. When they left a review for those estimators, they didn't know that there's a little box that you actually have to uncheck, digital literacy here, that says, that gives you the option to not include a picture of the deliverable for the entire internet to see when you leave your review.
Mm.
So I've got unredacted reviews of Xactimate estimates out there that I saw. There's a Serve Pro up the street from my office. I see their EIN, I see their client's name, I see their claim number, I see all of their PII, which is personally identifiable information, all of it, just out on the internet. There's IAs. I've seen the Hartford in there. I've seen law firms in our industry in there. I've seen public adjusting firms in our industry in there, and contractors. And the sad part is there are things called data breach reporting laws, and you need to have someone at your company that can respond to those. Because I tried to contact ServPro, both their corporate and the local, I couldn't reach a person. Couldn't reach one person, because they've blocked off themselves so much that you can call to have emergency mitigation, or you can have a manager call you back and leave a message. And I was trying to tell them, your EIN, your full-time estimator that you pay a salary to estimate is using Fiverr, and your company's information is all over the internet. And they couldn't even, same with Servport Corporate, couldn't reach a person. So you need to have someone at your company that is appointed to actually look at the compliance, know whose data is out there, and you need to be vetting your vendors. There are also, people on Facebook that are estimators that estimate from a Gmail address in Pakistan. Now, there's nothing wrong with an estimator in Pakistan. I don't want anyone to think that I'm against, global outsourcing. It's the thing right now. Everybody does global outsourcing. Just do it compliantly. Don't do it to a random Gmail address. Make sure they have an actual legal entity that is a company. It's not a person. I had someone that a lot of people, unfortunately, in my network use, that worked from a Gmail address that a ton of random people in Pakistan had access to. And they're just sending their clients' data all over the pictures, contact information, and people think, well, it's no big deal. They're estimators, right? Those estimators get hacked all the time. Info stealers target overseas offshore workers because they use something called virtual machines, which they use their personal devices. They're working for lots of different companies. They use bootleg software and they get viruses. Now all of your data and your client's data is... So, and this Xactimate estimator that contacted me they lost that control of that email. They got hacked. So now all of my colleagues that I knew that used them for the $20 estimates or whatever it was, now all their data's gone. So you really need to be ensuring that your vendor is even a real company, that they're handling data compliantly. It's just, I wish I could unsee these things, to be honest.
Well, and it sounds so innocent,
bad.
And it is innocent, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, well, I can get this estimate cheaper because this person is cheaper. So I'm making more money. So I'm profiting more. So like, get off my butt, basically, right? Like, this is good for me. But I think the question you have to ask is, what would be your explanation to your client after calling them to say, hey, FYI, all the information about the claim, pictures of your home, all of that is all over the internet. Like, are you really okay saying, but you have to understand, I made a lot of money over the years by not paying a more expensive estimator.
I saved $150 on your estimate by giving up your data. And people think that they won't have to make that phone call, Galen, but we have data breach reporting laws.
Yeah, and there are law firms that do this for a living. They look for data breaches and they go after companies for data breaches. And yes, right now they focus on very, very large corporations because that's where all the money is. But that's starting to dry up. And, so mid-tier and smaller companies are next because they might not be able to bilk you for 30 million, but they'll get you for a few $100,000. They'll get you for whatever number is just slightly south of what puts you in bankruptcy.
And it's you have those opportunists, I want to be careful, kind of crapping on attorneys here, but there are some attorneys that really take a valid concept and really run with it. You know what I'm saying? So, it's challenging. It's really challenging, but if you just really start at and also too, if you look at the regulations that are starting to come out with privacy laws and with cybersecurity stuff, with data breaches, what they're looking for, and this is according to attorneys, I'm not an attorney, this is not legal advice, this is just what my attorney has given me as a summary. What they're looking for is that you tried. is that you did give the vendor the checklist, is that you did think about it, you did log what your digital footprint is. Your insurance for your business, if you have cybersecurity insurance, would also love to know this information. They're going to be defending you. Make it easy for your insurance company, and say, hey, here's all the compliance points we hit. I hopefully you can avoid negligence there. So it's really looking at, again, risk mitigation and just making sure you're doing the right things that are in your control, in your agency. Agency the concept, not agency the company, of making those decisions to do the right thing, because it's the one time you don't do it that you could bankrupt your business. So we don't want that.
Absolutely.
Obviously it's the
Yeah,
right
and you
thing to do
don't.
too, but
And that's really the issue. So, and data collection's happening everywhere, right? I mean, even your cars are collecting data now. And
oh, Lord have mercy. That is so Allstate. It's a whole it's so bad. So if your vehicle was made in like the last 5, 10-ish years, you are getting data mined every time you drive, hook up your phone, everything. Tesla was even caught internally sharing video of a man naked in his own garage getting ice cream. If you can't be naked in your own garage or country, I mean, come on. That you have a reasonable you should be able to be naked in your own garage and be private, But no, his Tesla recorded it. Tesla employees passed it around. And it's not an Elon thing. I know people are very, for or against Elon, but Tesla's not the only company that does stuff like this. Even Roomba, those have cameras on them. They did a test, and a woman on her toilet was somehow shared to the internet from her Roomba, got all over the internet. So I mean, anything that's connected is probably being data mined. My television, I have a Samsung, a new privacy policy popped up and I didn't accept it. That if I'm going to watch TV, I have to be okay with them sending what I'm watching. I read the privacy policy, I went through it. And I'm like, okay, I guess I'm only playing PS5 on this thing now because I'm not okay with that. So it's everything. And Allstate actually just got sued by Attorney General of Texas. And for Texas to come after you for data privacy, you messed up. There's I think it was 45 million, is either 45 million records or 45 million Americans, because insurance companies really profit from data. They use it for underwriting, and they own, in this case, Allstate actually owns a data collection, a data broker that they're getting this data from, and they're harvesting it from apps that we use. The least amount of apps you can have on your iPhone, the better. This is just personal preference, but it's just, but Allstate's in big trouble for misuse of data from Texas.
Yeah, at one point they caught a very large rideshare app that most of us have probably used to travel, spying on people all the time.
Yeah, where they were walking. I know the one you're talking about as well, and it would record where you went after the ride, and it's like, that's not.
Yeah, even when you weren't using it, it was recording your activities, which was wild. There were salacious things that it was used for, but I mean, Apple did come down on them briefly and allegedly stop it, but
yeah, vehicles are being subpoenaed in divorce cases now because it records activities in the vehicle. If there was any kind of, cheating involved, law enforcement are seizing vehicles now especially because they're recording crimes. And there's even a law enforcement app that takes all the data from our vehicles, and without a subpoena, they have our location, what we're doing, our texts, all of that stuff. It's crazy. And I'm not anti-law enforcement. It's just right now the regulations have not caught up with the technology. So it's pretty wild right now. Pretty wild. But at least controlling what we can control, at least make sure your vendors are following basic security protocol.
I could not agree more. This is such an important topic. And I know if you're sitting at home and you saw this topic, you might not have even clicked on it initially because you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about cybersecurity. But I mean, I don't have the stats in front of me, but it's literally, hundreds of millions of dollars it cost Americans and American businesses every year. It's wild.
The average cybersecurity breach bankrupts a company as far as small and medium-sized businesses. the statistics. So it's pretty important. And again, it's practical stuff. It's just making sure, don't save your passwords in your browser ever, in your login information. Don't click on strange links. Know what software you're signed up for. If you're done using a software, email them and say, hey, please delete my account and all of my data. My information even came up in a data breach because as a public insurance adjuster, not a policyholder, my information was saved at Amica. Amica got hit by a data breach. My business contact information ended up in the data breach because I use monitoring software. That's another thing you can use as a business. My monitoring software is very inexpensive, and it monitors data breaches for me. It monitors my
What do you like
email
to
accounts,
use?
all kinds of stuff. I'll post those. I'll give those to you.
Okay.
There's a few different ones. So you can do monitoring of like your emails and your information. There's also typo squatting for your actual domain name. It usually only happens to larger companies, but it can happen. You can do cloud monitoring. So there's a few different ones, but they're incredibly affordable. It's like $10 a month. It's really nice.
Yeah, we'll put those in the notes for you guys. That way, you can kind of start with responsible cybersecurity for a super low price. But yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
And guys, please look at your
Insecure Web is
domains
a
on
good
the
one.
emails. Which one?
Insecure Web.
Insecure Web.
Yes, and the founder is based in Florida. So everything that I recommend, I've researched to the hilt. So the founder is in Florida, and it is a wonderful data breach monitoring software. Like I even know with my software, I love developers that are based in Germany because you have GDPR protection. You have, not for Americans, but you have that architecture built into the app and German data protection laws. And the servers are most likely physically in Germany. So when you get up to that level, it's helpful, but you don't have to be at such a crazy, technical level to start with cybersecurity.
Say whatever you will about the global economy and everything right now, but if the vendor you're using is based in the EU, you can be pretty sure that they have some significant regulations in place to protect you, which is nice.
Oh my gosh, significant. Like it's so different from ours. Even the CCPA, the California privacy laws, which are, I think they're the oldest in the country. They were way before everyone else. I think they're wonderful. But if you actually read the regulations, pretty high thresholds. like
Yeah.
like you have to have like 51%. You have to hit one of the requirements. A lot of businesses actually don't hit the CCPA thresholds because you have to it's a certain in the hundreds of thousands, I think, of California consumers' data you have to be collecting, or 51% of your business is reselling California user data. So it's a pretty high thresholds. It's silly.
It is. It's hard. I think we are just about out of time. I've asked you before, but I'm going to ask you again, just in case you have another answer for me. What does it mean to you to level up?
Well, I think I touched on before about awareness and agency are very, very important. And that is the essence of being able to level up, is being aware of yourself and your decisions and your agency within your own life. If you're not making decisions for yourself, someone else is making them for you. But aside from that too, that to me, you should have, and I'm going to use the word should, I don't use that one often. You should have some type of way to give back to others within everything that you're doing in your life. Something. So I think leveling up, making sure that you're doing something to help other people level up. For me personally, I like to contribute back to the world through education. I believe education and teaching people agency is the most important thing that you can give a human being. Obviously, in-kind donations like immediate needs like food and shelter are important. But if you really want to help people over the long run, help them with education. So when you learn, when you level up, help someone else level up. And beautiful things happen within that, especially if you're in a mentor-mentee relationship. They help you remind things you've forgotten. They find new iterations on things that you've taught them, and it becomes this beautiful give and take. So if there's anything that I can suggest is when you are leveling up, make sure you have some way of helping people level up with you through education and teaching people agency, not just giving them what you've leveled up with.
That is such a beautiful answer. Just when I thought it couldn't get better. But no, this is why everyone speaks so highly of you, because you're just such a beautiful person on the inside. And I'm so grateful for the time you spent with us. It's so meaningful. Thank you.
Same here with you. Your reputation precedes you. It's everyone always talks about how much you share and how much you give back, and the education, and really your ethics, everything. And so yeah, when I was asked to be on, I was like, absolutely, this will be great.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
I'd like to thank Sarah Mary Parker for joining us again on the show. As I said at the very beginning, cybersecurity is a hugely important topic to me. It's overlooked, but so many companies go down because of it. So, what are you doing to protect your clients' data, your data, and make sure that your company has long-term viability? Listen to Sarah Mary Parker. She gave you some very, very simple steps. Follow us on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player.